watching NotesIn9.
Hello, and welcome to NotesIn9. I'm David Leedy. Episode 176, Categorizing Repeat Controls. When in doubt, use a repeat control. Okay, we have a new contributor today, and I always love when I have this slide on. Today I have on Bill Fox, and Bill is a longtime Notes developer. I think said he started with the R3, and he's from Workflow Systems Incorporated out in Canada, and his website is WF Systems. And Bill's kind of unique in a way. I think he's the first contributor that I've had on that actually just sells a product, an add-on. So he sells a workflow. He's created and sells workflow approval for X Pages. I believe he has a long-standing Notes client version. I've never seen it. I really don't know much about it. You can go to his website, but I assume it has something to do with aiding workflow, which is always a very popular thing that you want to add to your application. So if you're just interested in that, try and check it out. His email is here. Bill, I think I met Bill via the X Pages forum. Quite honestly, he's pretty active on there. He was asking questions and then he started answering questions, and I always like to see that. So I wanted to see if he wanted to come on the show and kind of spread some of that knowledge. But he gave me a demo today, and there's a lot going on here. He does a demo on using categorized repeat controls. So he talks about a one level category, a two level category, and a three level category, all done via repeat control. And along the way, he's going to touch on custom controls with custom properties and computing CSS styles and view navigators, and he even uses the XPages debug control that Mark Lusink wrote and put on OpenNTF. And there's probably more in there that I've forgotten about. So I kind of think this is really interesting because it's a little more bigger than just a single tip. He's got a lot going on there. So I know I found myself kind of like pausing a little bit and kind of like looking to see what's going on and stuff like that. So maybe you will too, and I do hope you like it. He said his database can be downloaded from his website, so you might want to check that out. And with all that being said, let's go to the demo.
Welcome. My name is Bill Fox. I've been working in the Notes Domino environment since 1995, starting with R3 and having gone through each of the upgrades, and from R3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and now into 9 and X Pages. It's been an exciting challenge, frustrating at times, but seemed always worthwhile on the effort. As I started working in X Pages a couple of years ago, I had problems with because I had so little control over the the way the views and the data were presented. When I say view, I'm talking in terms of the Notes Domino type of thing and the experience of the end user. This example here is just a little put together that I made that of some customers, and I've just, for the starting point, just put in a view panel, and here they are. It works, and it works reasonably well. And yet there are things you can do with it, but I found it too limiting. And when I wanted to really get into doing something, I just had trouble. I used the data view as well from the extension library, and I found I had kind of the same sort of issues with it. And some of that may be that I just didn't spend enough time familiarizing myself with what they were and what they do. But anyway, I found repeat controls, and I kind of fell in love with repeat controls because now I could do stuff that I was never able to do in the Notes environment, and now, hey, it's almost the sky's the limit. Anyway, let's go take a look at what we've got. Okay, here we are in the designer, and this is the view that we were just looking at. In the designer, it's a plain, ordinary notes view, very simple. I want to just take a couple of minutes just to run through some of the pieces that I've already built so that you know how this all fits together. I built a few custom controls. A custom control here just for entering the customer data on the example. Very straightforward. And then I created a custom control called the body, and this is simply a panel. Inside the panel, I've created a table, and that table has two rows, or I'm sorry, one row, and two columns. This first column takes up 70% of the screen, and the right-hand column takes up 30%. I've dropped the custom control for my customers into this panel over here. I've created a facet to be able to put in the variable content, and there's an action button that just moves us back to the main view. In addition, I've created 3 headers, and this is really simplistic, just a panel, and I just put in some fixed text. This can contain a table, can contain various controls, buttons, actions, etc. But in our case, it's just going to be a label, and likewise for the two repeat control. In addition, here is the control called the demo summary display, and it is again starts with a panel. I like to start with a panel just because now everything that's within that is controlled. And then within the panel, I have a table. This table is multiple columns. My purpose is not to make this pretty, just to make it functional. The button to open the customer document, and then a computed value, and it's going to get the from the view entry data that we'll see how that's got obtained later, and I just get the column called name, and the same for all the rest of the fields. This table has a computed style. And in that computed style, I say if the industry is agriculture, it's going to be green, gas and oil is brown, yellow, etc. Just to give you an idea of some of the things you can do within the repeat control and make it a little bit different. Then what I've done is I've gone up here to my X pages. This is my main page with three buttons on it to be able to go to the single category, 2 category, and 3 category. Here's my view panel with the and we look at the data for the view panel. We see it just gets a current database and the view by country, puts it in there, and here's of course the entry part of it. Then for the category 1 page, I've just dropped in the custom control body into here, and here's my facet to be able to work with. So we're going to work with the category 1 first of all, and so we're going to use this view, customers by country, and the view is called view by country. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to come back here, and now I've got my templates down here, and I'm going to drag my single category template and drop it into that facet. Now notice that this has facets as well within it, and so I'm going to drag my header 1 and drop it into there, and then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to take my demo summary display and drop it into there. Almost ready to use. We go to the custom properties on the on a Cat1 template, and we need the view that we're going to get the category 1 from, and the view that we're going to get the data from, and how many rows do we want to display for the actual data, and how many do we want to display for the categories, and you can play with those and make them whatever you want. So now that's it, and we'll switch back to our browser and take a look at the category 1 view. Here we are back in the browser. We'll go to the single category repeat, and there it is. We've got the drop down, click on that, and we get the display of all of the customers matching Canada. It's paginated, and I can switch back and forth between the pages. Switch to another category, being United States, and likewise go between the pages and turn that, collapse them all. These are all controlled by various session scope values. We have SSCat1, which is set to Canada and the United States, and so there we are. If I expand this, I go back to my session scope. Notice now I've got SSCat1 display says Canada, and so the selection behind this is going to get all of the customers where category 1, where the country is equal to Cat1. And we'll look at that when we get into the inner workings of the application. But for right now, there it is. That's working. And so let's go back to our designer. So here we are back in the designer. And so how did we set the value for SSCat1 in the example we just looked at? And it's all contained within this little library here, JavaScript library called Get JSUtils, and it's in this function get category, and we pass it a view and then a category string to determine what category level that we want to retrieve. I do this in most of my JavaScript. I put a debug statement, Boolean statement at the top, and if I set it to true, then these print statements will get printed out to the console. It's real handy. I find that real handy when I'm trying to debug and trace things through. In any case, we get here, and I'm going to use a view navigator, and so the first thing that we have to do is turn off the auto update. We'll turn it back on before we come back out of this. And then I create a navigator from the view that was opened up above there. And then I set these 3 values as shown here. Not exactly sure why or what they do, but I know that they have to be there, and I got the answer from Stack Overflow. So if you're ever wondering or have a problem, Stack Overflow, great resource to go to. Do a lot of catches and tries and keep that working so you don't bomb everything. I create a vector called RTN, which is going to be the return value, and then I go through and I cycle through the navigator, returning the values and storing them and building the category. At the end, do the recycle. Then I get it back down here, and I'm ultimately going to return to SSCat the number that tells me what way it is, and then a value called return array. This piece of code up here, this while loop, uh, splits the key using a caret, and you'll see how that comes into play a little later. In a single category view, this is all there is to it. So you can download this database from my website and look through this code, use it, whatever you want to do. So I'll just save the change I made so that the debugger is on. And now I'm going to come back up here to my views, and let's take a look at building a two-category view. So I'm going to just copy this first view, open it, go to the view properties, and I'll change the name. And I'll call this by country and province. Now I'm from Canada, and since I'm building this, I'm going to call them provinces. You can call them states. And so that's all I have to do there. I've now got this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that so that I don't make a typo mistake. And this is what our view looked like. Now I need to make this key field a computed field, and I'm going to take country plus a tilde. I'm separating by because it's very seldom used in actual words. You can use whatever you want. And the field province. Save that, and let's take a look at it. Okay, now we see here we got Canada and Alberta, Canada, British Columbia, US, Alaska, Georgia, Iowa, Montana, etc. So the category 1, SS-Cat 1 will be Canada and the United States as it was in the previous one, and is going to then pick Alberta, BC for the second category for Canada, and the name of these states for the US. So that's all I have to do to make that display. So let's go to my main cat 2, and I'm going to grab the two category view or template, and I'm going to put the header in there. I'm going to put the display in there, and I'm going to open go to my custom properties, and I'll just paste in. We're going to use the same view for all three of these. The get category will look after dealing with that. I'll set that down to a smaller number, and I'm going to set that down to a smaller number. Anyway, okay, that's all there is to that. I'm going to save this and go back over to my browser. I'll go back to the main, go to the two category repeat. Here it is. Looks exactly the same as the single category, but when I expand this, I get my category 2. I go into my session, look at SS-Cat 2. Here's Alberta and British Columbia. Cat 1 is Canada, or the Cat 1 display is Canada, so only selects the values for Canada into the repeat. If I click on there, then we have this same thing, but now when I come into the session scope, here's my cat 2. Fairly simple and straightforward. Now I want to show you go back over to Designer and to my two category view process. And my first category really doesn't need to go through all the processing, because it does do some extra processing uh, to get the first category, because the view customers by country gets just category 1. So this is why I want to pull the data from various views, because this will have to go through fewer iterations of the get category to get to category 1 view or values. So just an issue to consider when I go over to the design, back over to the view, and I recalculate it and come into category 2. It's exactly the same, except it's done a lot less work. If you're into the situation where there's a lot of categories and a lot of various values, this can be a significant issue. I have found a problem in my JavaScript utility where let me just get back there for a moment, where if I'm doing category 2 and category 3, the get category actually goes through too much data. It finds the right grouping, but it then continues on through the whole sequence. I need to revise that, and I'm considering that what I will do is probably rewrite this whole thing in Java and make it a Java bean. And I can hear David cheering in the background for that move, but it works as JavaScript, and I will take a look at it in the Java bean at another time. So let's take a look at now then the 3 category view. Alright, back to the designer here, and now let's make the 3 category repeat control view. It's going to be very, very similar to how we made the 2 category one. Make a copy. Make a copy of this. Paste it in there. Open this view. Go to the view data. Change the name. And I'm going to call this province city. And city, and I'm going to copy that so I can reuse it later. I'll go to the key, and now add this, and now you can, what's the next thing I'm going to do here? Of course, we just say city. I'm going to save this now, that formula. Let's take a look at the key. Okay, now you can see that it's all categorized down to the 3rd level in this view, and we're basically ready to go. So I'm going to save this, close it up, go to my X pages, and I'll open the X page for the 3 category. I'm going to bring up the 3 category template, place it in there, take the header 3 and dump it in there, and I'll take my demo summary display and put it in here, and select the category 3. Custom control, go to the custom properties. Alright, So I'm going to come down here to the data view, and that's the view I want for there. And it's also where I want to get the third category from. It's going to be the city. I could just put that in there, and this would work fine. But from what we just already saw just a few minutes ago, that this would be more efficient getting the names of just the countries and province. And if I come in here, that I want to just get the view by country again, a bit of optimization, and I still need to optimize my JavaScript a little bit more to fix those problems. But anyway, and I can change these paging values, but I'm not going to. I'm going to save that. Go back over to the browser. Let's go take a look at the three category repeat. And here we are. And now I can open this. We'll see that when I do that, all right, SSCat2 is Alberta, British Columbia. Cat1 display is Canada, but Cat2 display is still null. If I click on Alberta and come back here, I'll see Cat2 display is Alberta, and Cat3 are these three values. If I open this one and go back and take a look, I now see that Cat3 display is Big Lake, which is displayed just a single value. So these session scope variables all control what is necessary for what's displayed, where it's displayed, and what the categories are. So let's go back over to the designer and take a look at the actual templates and how they're built. Okay, back in the designer, let's take a quick look at the template for the Cat1. In this, we have the custom control, and there is the event after page loads, and it just simply gets the category, composite data, category 1 view, that's the view name, and when we pass it a null, we know that we're looking for the Cat1 values. So when this page is loaded, Cat1 is SSCat1 is loaded with the appropriate values. We have a pager, and its properties is for the value for repeat Cat1. Here is the repeat control, repeat Cat1. It uses a session scope variable to SSCat1, and we've seen how that has changed as we work through it. We get the starting index number as a computed value, and it just keeps track of the page that we're on, so that when we come back from, say, opening a document, we come back to the right page. Page limit, set whatever you want to set it as. The repeat, or the action button here on the repeat, this expands the values. It has a visible property, which is it says if Cat1 is null, then return a false, and or else if it's a member, and so basically that just controls whether or not the drop down button or the expand button twisty is going to display or not. There is an event on this that says get category. Now it passes Cat1, so we now know we need to get Cat2. Sets the SSCat1 display to the value for cat1 that's being passed, gets a repeat cat1 and sets it to the first to 0, the same here, and sets SS data first to 0. Then we come down to the next level down, and we come to this panel, and this is this panel called panel data, and I use the same terms throughout all three of these, and so I don't get confused. What did I call that the last time? Panel data has a visible or rendered property, and it says if cat1 is equal to cat1 display, then let's see it, show it. Within this panel, again, a repeat, it's linked to the repeat data, and here's repeat data. It uses, let me back up. I need to go back to the panel data. Let's take a look at the data. I've called the data source for this view collection. It's more, what it's going to come up as is more like a view entry collection, but we'll question that one later. It's going to use the current database. The view that it's going to use, it gets the value from the composite data, and it's going to filter on the column and return cat1. I want to make sure that it's an exact match, otherwise we'll have trouble. So we come to the repeat control itself, and again, it gets its data from view collection. I call what's returned here view entry data, but others may call it different things. It gets the starting index as we looked before, and it gets a repeat limit from the composite data display rows, and that's pretty much it. The view body is a facet where we paste in the information, the demo summary display control, or whatever you wish to put in there. Let's take a look at the cat2 one. It looks very similar. A pager linked to repeat cat1, and we get repeat cat1. It is bound to the session scope SS cat1. The expand and collapse buttons, the same thing. Here's our next level down, a pager. The pager's call is bound to repeat cat2. Here's the repeat control, repeat cat2. It's bound to SS cat2. Again, starting index and repeat limits are set there. And then we come down finally to our panel data. That's actually going to be the guts of this thing and makes it work. And so called the view collection, the view that it's going to use, again, the composite data from there. And the filter is going to be a computed value, and it is cat1 with a tilde and cat2. Pretty simple. Let's go. So and then we have the repeat view entry data, and then you put your demo control in there. Okay, before we leave, I'm not going to go through the cat3 template because it's going to take, it's basically the same, just with an additional level. I want to take the header I'm sorry. I want to take the main category 1 view again, and I'm just going to change its to by industry and make this by industry. Spell it right. There we go. And I'm going to save this, and we'll switch back over to the browser. Okay, I've switched over to the browser, and I don't have any information in here. I've made a mistake over in the designer, and so I want to open this, and let's take a look at what the problem is. If I go to the views, I notice it's by industry data. So I need to change this to industry data, and this one to the same thing. Save it, and now we'll go back over to the browser, and it should be working correctly. So here we are now back in the browser, and notice that we've got the customers now sorted and by industry. But let's assume for the moment that this isn't really the order that I want these in, because I would like to have other at the very end of the list, not part way through, and maybe some other things. So let's go back over to the designer and take a look at how we can modify that. If I look at the views, and I've already created this view of the industry, and it's called industry sorted, and what I've done is I've changed the key, and it's simply going to take a look and say if the industry is gas, they're going to put a 1, agriculture 2, pharmacy is 3, retail is 4, and other is 5, and if it's none of those, it becomes a 6. And we see here, so I've got a 1, a caret, and the industry. Notice also that I haven't put any data in here. I haven't got any columns other than the key column, because I don't need any values in here. So the view index has less work to do, and the view becomes much more compact. So now if I come back into this category 1, and I say where am I going to get category 1 from, I'm going to get it from the view by industry sort that I just looked here. Let's make sure I've got the right name. It is sort, okay? So, but I'm going to get the actual information from the industry data. Again, a reason why you might want to use different views at different levels. So we'll go back over to the designer, go back to the main, come back into single category view, and now we notice oil and gas is at the top, agriculture, pharmacy, retail, and others at the end of it. I'll leave it to you that if you want to take a look at the JavaScript on the Git category code, you can see how I've split that out. In any case, that's the way that I've created categorized views for repeat controls. I use it all the time, and I really like it. You may well find ways to extend it and make it even better, and if you do, I'd really appreciate hearing from you. You can download this database at my website, wfsystems.ca, and go to the download, click on the download button, and you'll find it there. And I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll just put up my contact information here for you. So you can contact me at wfsystems.ca. Send me an email at bill_fox@wfsystems.ca, or give me a call at 1-780-504-0798. We're in Greenwich Mean Time -7 Mountain Zone in North America, and I'd love to hear from you. So back to you, Dave.
And that's the demo. I really do want to thank Bill for coming on the show and sharing his knowledge and time with us. If you have any questions on the categorize repeat controls, please drop him a line. If you have any questions for me or you're interested in contributing to the show, drop me a line. And I thank you for your time.